r/AskScienceFiction. Calling all Mats says, Star Wars is any there of our modern day technology that would be advanced/impressive in the Legends/Canon universe. Xeno Riot says, they seem to have nothing like the kind of high resolution, high fidelity display technology represented by the monitor you're reading this post on. Computing in general is in kind of a weird place for them. They can do things like navigate hyperspace and build truly sentient artificial intelligences, but some of the more mundane tasks we expect a computer to do seem beyond them. Goodleben says, I would posit this has something to do with just how good their computer tech actually is. There are clearly unscrupulous people on the galaxy, and massively interconnected systems are vulnerable. Even the military relies on physical code cylinders. It just takes an astromech droid to plug into the most secure Imperial facility in existence to really mess some stuff up. Computer science in Southwestern could simply be so powerful that encryption is basically useless, so isolating systems is the easiest way to secure them. Dr. Bacon 27 says, I've heard the idea that if a slow-moving, clunky trash can of a robot can get direct physical access to your facility, your security has already failed. Encryption just doesn't matter at that point. If A94 says, ironically, are robots and computers. Sure, they have sentient AI, and we do not, but their AI is just a dumber human with good knowledge memory. For example, their droids can't target for shit. Our auto-aimed weapon systems seems amazingly better, while almost all their point defense systems seems to be manually turned and aimed like WWII. And their battle droids and droid fighters are also dogshit at aiming. Even their more powerful turbolasers seems to be manually aimed. All that kind of programming seems vastly superior IRL than Star Wars. Just sensors and sensor and tracking technology in general seems better IRL. Greet_the_sun says, exactly, blow the minds of all the highest ranked commanders of the Empire by showing them radar guided gunnery and missiles being fired from beyond line of sight. DankNerd97 says, imagine some kid blowing up a space station without being present on the vessel that blew it up. Modred_the_mystics says, our video games are better I think. We don't have holochess, but we have everything from visual novels to hentai sims. Thespian Exception says, but we have everything from visual novels to hentai sims. We even have games that combine the two. Uncle Bones says, we have everything from the Beatles to Wings. Darth Tipo92 says, the internet would blow their minds. Because of how difficult it is to communicate vast distances, most planets have intermittent contact with other systems and very rarely have constant contact. They typically use big data dumps on scheduled times, so a message could take months to travel a short distance unless it's escalated by government needs. The idea of having constant access to a communication as broad as the internet would be mind-boggling. Even on a relatively well-developed planet they rely on radio transmissions and direct laser communication. Data storage for an individual is around a few megabytes in size, and usually based solely on their personal devices. Without paired communication equipment, something like a cell phone would seem very exotic compared to their walkie-talkie tech. r/AskScienceFiction. Albino_axolotl says, Star Wars, if a protocol droid is modded into an Assassin 1, do they change the voice modulator too from the default Queen's Galactic basic something else? Iamanga101 says, only if they decide to change the voice modulator. I mean, it's a machine. Swap it or don't. Mount a scope on your chainsaw. As long as you have the mechanic know-how, you can do what you please. I don't think making an assassin sound like an assassin/threat is a particularly effective strategy though. Poorly Drawn Beagle says, don't think so. The precedent of 000 suggests all you need to do is stick the personality matrix into a droid's head and you've got an assassin. Whip It Good says, well, according to legend, the Assassin Protocol droid C-3PX went through numerous rebuilds, which even included having his eye receptor lights changed to red to make him look more menacing, but nothing was done about his voice. Mind you, with his assassin droid programming, he didn't talk much in any case. Vote_for_knife_party says, depends on the nature of the mods. Unless that space inside the droid is needed for something else, keeping the hardware as regulation as possible will reduce the risk of detection. If the droid will chiefly be using deception and infiltration to approach targets, being able to walk the walk and talk the talk, literally, will be a pretty big edge. If deception isn't a concern, like someone is rebuilding the droid into a HK-47 style guns akimbo assault unit, then they might as well rip it out, put in a smaller voice unit with a less robust range, and use the leftover space for something dangerous. r/AskScienceFiction. Ninman5 says, Star Wars, if a Jedi used a mind trick to frick a woman, would that turn him to the dark side on account of it being rape? Victurnus says, the dark side isn't a switch that turns on when you break a law or commit any specific action. It's what happens when you use emotion to fuel your power, and so your emotions start to direct how you use them. Vote_for_knife_party says, I'd say flip it around. It's not the active force assisted rape that makes someone a dark sider, it's slipping towards the dark side and giving into selfish and negative emotions that makes someone okay with force assisted rape. Consider the time in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin decided to commit minor genocide on a Sand People tribe because they murdered his mom. What he did was bad, but it was the fact that he was already having issues with his anger and control that led him to take the action he did, not the action itself that stained him. Kyle_Dornez says, not instantly. You only instantly turn to the dark side once you willingly embrace it. Aside from that, path into darkness is very gradual and maddening. Breaking someone's will by force would definitely corrupt someone faster than just using the force to enhance your flirting prowess. It won't happen on the first time or the second, but eventually once it becomes a habit, the dark side will warp the mind of the force user into rejecting any sort of denial, which ultimately will lead to a breaking point. Strawberry Top 3457 says, your question makes no sense and shits it pants. If the Jedi is comfortable and willing to rape for pleasure or power, then they are most likely not Jedi, and are Sith manipulation and corruption is the hallmarks of a Sith and user of the dark side. r/AskScienceFiction. Leroy Agnesty says, Star Wars, who is the physically strongest person in Star Wars? I'm mainly looking for people whose strength comes from their body itself, but if there are people who augment their strength through technology or the Force, they're worth a mention as well. Matt the Smither says, of the characters we know, and ignoring creatures who do not have sophisticated thoughts like Wampus and Rankers, probably Chewbacca/other Wookiees or Boosk. Also, I believe the Hutts are canonically very strong creatures. Darth Tipo 92 says, most likely Berg. He's a Devaronian bounty hunter active after the Battle of Endor. While we only see him for a short while, he's been shown tearing apart combat droids with his bare hands as well as lifting blast doors on his shoulders and surviving being crushed by secondary blast doors and being impervious to flamethrowers. Might not seem like much compared to Zeb and Wookiees, but he's an exception compared to his species, rather than comparable to other members like Chewbacca and Zeb are. Ifa94 says, probably Rika. All his strength feats are clearly superhuman, throwing grown men in full armor over a dozen meters, and lifting huge chunks of metal without issue. The dude is clearly superhuman. Serenity_B says, Zonama Sekut, Legends Only, is probably the strongest organism in Star Wars. It's a living sentient planet that was capable of traveling through hyperspace. r/AskScienceFiction. Galactic1641 says, Star Wars, can I use just the Force and no other tools save those I can create using the Force to survive? Assuming I'm a supreme prodigy of the Force with the ability to learn absolutely any, both light and dark side techniques, instantly, can I go my entire life without ever needing another tool from the moment I get and master the catalog of all Force abilities? Note that I'm fine with stuff that I can personally create or get using the Force. Additionally, how far can I go in conquering the galaxy under those conditions? In _r_dress says, theoretically anything you could create or do with your hands could be done with the Force more or less. There are people in real life who could move into the wilderness with virtually nothing and build themselves a shelter and survive off the land. As long as you had access to water and food and enough raw material to build a shelter, you could theoretically survive indefinitely. I don't think you'd get very far conquering the galaxy without even being able to fly a ship off your planet. Even if you hand-waved that away, it's a very broad question. But you aren't going to last long just attacking people with the Force. Eventually people will find a way to kill you. Ghost_Sandal says, a supreme prodigy of the Force could 100% live for a very long time with no food, water, or sleep, kinda like Darth Plagueis did for the last years of his life. A supreme prodigy of the Force with no moral hang-ups could also very likely mind control enough henchmen/slaves to form some sort of army to invade other planets' civilizations. This is all assuming that those techniques are already available to the user OFC. However, a Force user of such magnitude would still be tasked with maintaining such an enormous strain of power and influence on all these subjects, while simultaneously keeping themselves alive, which sounds like a huge mental/physical stress that would eventually wear down even the most gifted of users. Hypothetically, even if an individual had the raw power and talent to maintain this effort for any extended period of time, I feel like the cosmic living force itself would eventually seek to somehow balance such an extraordinarily powerful being who exudes such dark and unnatural control over others. Sounds like a new chosen one being born to me.